Welcome everybody to the first episode of Inside the League, the video companion to the Mon Valley Independent Summer Basketball League, which will kick off Monday and Tuesday night at Marx's Court Time Sports Center in Elizabeth Township. I'm MVI Sports Editor Jeremy Salou. To my right, your left, Assistant Sports Editor Jose Negron. And we're going to get this thing started. We're going to become familiar faces to everybody up at the court over the next 6 weeks, and we're really looking forward to kicking this thing off as a division of summer basketball and the Mon Valley Independent. The first thing we're going to cover first is what to expect on day one. Obviously, with everything going on in the world, we have some precautions we need to take for COVID-19 awareness. When you enter Marx's Court Time Sports Center, you will be asked 5 questions. Spoiler alert, here they are. Do you have a fever? Do you have a cough? Are you experiencing any breathing, respiratory issues? Have you been in contact with anybody suspected of having COVID? Or have you been in contact or been exposed to somebody that was deemed a hotspot area or in a hotspot area? Biggest thing, hand washing, hand sanitizer. There are hand sanitizer stations at the court. Spectators will be required to wear masks at all times in spectator seating areas and on the mezzanine to watch the court. And when you enter also, you will have a contactless temperature taken by a staff member. As long as you are below 100.4 degrees, you're good to go and you're welcome to attend the basketball event. I believe that is going for players as well. Staff members such as me and Jose here, everybody will undergo the same protocols every night just to keep everybody safe. Other than that, don't forget the games will be shown on our YouTube channel the next day. So your 7 o'clock game will kick off approximately around noon, 8 o'clock at 1, 9 o'clock game at around 2 o'clock. So that way people that can attend, or if there's any of you coaches out there want to have your eye on a player, you want to see a player play, we're going to make that available to you. I know, Jose, we've been in contact with some college coaches around the area regionally, and recruiting is dead until September.
Right.
But this will give them a way that they could still view any particular players they might be interested, or we can get a player on their radar. So I think that's going to be big. But, I mean, without any further ado, let's get into things.
Absolutely. We got a lot to talk about.
We will both be in attendance tomorrow for the kickoff of the girls division.
Yep. And it's a huge year for this league. Obviously, experiencing a little bit of a change, having our own league, sponsored by the Mon Valley Independent, having a league in Elizabeth at court time. But looking at the rosters, Jeremy, it's really a loaded league. I mean, there's so much talent here. Every team seems to be very talented, and it's going to be every single night. We're going to have some really good matchups.
First of all, why don't you give us the schedule for tomorrow's girls division game?
Yeah, 7 p.m. It's going to start out with Edward Jones versus Monessen Forest. Then we have a rematch of last year's championship game, AMD Industries versus State Farm, and Cedarbrook versus Lee Supply in the 9 p.m. tilt.
And I got to give it up to the league organizers who we may have some influence with those.
Maybe.
The so-called marquee games, we try to keep at 8 o'clock for deadline purposes for us. So that way we can make sure we have those stories featured prominently in our edition for the next day. Sometimes those 9 o'clock games run till 10:30, and of course we're on a deadline. So Jose did not silence his phone, but that's okay. First thing let's talk about, looking at the girls' rosters. Who are some, let's each pick a player from one team that we really can't wait to watch play. Obviously, the defending champion, State Farm. I'll tell you somebody that comes to mind right away for me is Ella Kupka of Brentwood. She's an incoming freshman. The girl can go. Mm-hmm. We've seen her a couple times. I think she had some film out there that we watched too. But the one thing I see from this State Farm team, there's not too much height on there.
No, but they got good
very
guard
oriented.
Yes.
Anybody you want to watch play for that team?
In terms of State Farm, I mean, obviously their first-round draft pick, Lydia Zogelman, we saw her last year. Thomas Jefferson, we know she can shoot the three. We know how talented she is. I think that's a really good addition to this State Farm team. She already has a high school teammate on the team in Maddie Trainer. And then another girl from Thomas Jefferson who is going to make a big impact, I believe, is Gracie Fairman for Lee Supply, second overall pick in this year's draft. As soon as she registered, we were kind of already thinking, she's going to be an impact player. She's going to be really good for this league. And, we saw it all of last year, how good she was as a sophomore, and she's only going to get better.
And for sure, I mean, that's the person I really have marked for Lee Supply as well as Gracie. Obviously, there's a connection there with Lisa Fairman and Lee Supply and new Bell Vernon area head coach Caitlin Slagus.
Right.
Congratulations, Kate, on obtaining that job. But we know there's a connection there. And also, Caitlin gets to look at some of her Bell Vernon players, especially Jenna Dawson, who's really going to need to step up into a leadership role. And that all starts here playing for Lee Supply.
Right.
Looking at the Edward Jones team, stands out, the number 1 overall draft pick, Alyssa Clutter from Trinity. Watched her huddle film before the draft. She's a slasher. She's a shooter. She plays good defense, great court vision, good passing. And always we like to keep our eye on the first overall picks and see how they do in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at that team, too. I mean, they have both of the Gerdiches, I believe, Kayla and Laney. They were draft picks as well this year. And then, you have two other Bell Vernon girls, and Presley Colditz and Viva Christ. And, not to mention, just the talent that they got on this team. Eliza Newcomer from Fraser. You got Cassandra Holland of Ringgold. I mean, just these girls that are going to be coming back to give that team some depth. So, it'll be interesting to see if they can bounce back from last year.
One thing I was really impressed by, I went up to the meet and greet, and we talked about Lee Supply already, but I'm going to look at AMD and Coach Rathway and Coach Slagus. They had their teams running plays, running drills, screening drills, rolling off screens. And I'll tell you
They're not messing around.
They're not messing around, and the player I can't wait to watch is E.S. Bailey Brinson. She was drafted by them this year. When she comes down the lane, she is, she's a freight train coming through. People are going to move out of her way.
Yep.
I know she went through a couple injury scares, not necessarily scares, but it slowed her down a little bit last year during the high school season. So I'm really interested to see how she comes out this summer. She already looks like she's in better shape, and I think Coach Rathway is going to mold her into an even better player there.
Right. And, I mean, you look at the rest of their roster, too. They have Kaylin Vienick back. They have Farrah Reeder from another Bell Vernon kid back. So they already have a ton of talent, and they kind of added to that really with their draft. And even with their first round draft pick, Ian Williamson of Trinity, I think she can kind of step in and be a big player for them. Obviously, they lost Bella Scoble, who was one of the better players in the league, one of the top scorers. So and also they lost the defending MVP in Ashley Godone. So I think that they filled some voids here with this draft, and they got a lot of young talent as well.
Next team we'll take a look at is the Monessen Flores team, coached by Chad Corrado and co-coach Mia Wojtovich, who is the first overall draft pick ever in the girls division. So I'm interested to see how her coaching prowess comes into play here, being a player from the league and being successful at W&J.
Yep.
And I'm going to mention the Fresh Five that Coach Corrado got. And one player that really stood out during the meet and greet was Hannah Pugliese, a freshman from Penn Hills. On the court, body of a senior. I mean, big, wide shoulders, strong, athletic. Everybody on this team can shoot from outside. They seem to make their layups, but I think the girl that's really going to make them go is senior guard Lauren Uhas from West Mifflin.
Yep.
Spark plug, aggressive, will drive to the hoop, she's not afraid of anything, aggressive defense. So I think she's going to mold what this Monessen Flores team turns into.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a senior, so this will be her only year of eligibility in the league, but I think that she's going to make a huge impact this year. We've kind of talked about her, many times before because we've seen her so many times playing in that same section as EF and Bell Vernon and Ringgold. But I think she's going to be a big impact player on the team. And you look at Monessen Flores, they had to draft a lot of players this year because they did lose a lot. They only had 4 players returning. They have Emily Vienick back. I know she had some injuries last summer, but she should be a pretty big player. They have Bella Corrado, Regan Borso, Bentworth, and then Anna Sloan of Beth Center. But, I mean, looking at their roster and what they added to this group, don't be surprised if they make an impact. And like we said, I mean, every team that even didn't make the playoffs last year got better throughout this draft.
For sure. And that's one of the goals when we talked about forming this league and moving it to court time, was to pull from a bigger range of talent.
Right.
Not that the talent wasn't there in the Greb League, but this league, it's more centralized location. You tap into talent from West Mifflin, McKeesport. I know we have a lot of Sarah Catholic girls in this year. I know you talked to Coach Cleary. He's interested to come to a few games.
He's excited about it.
And that reminds me of something we'll talk about, the how that works with coaches coming to the games for sure. The last team we got to take a look at real quick is Dennis Stitch's Cedarbrook team. I know he's assisted by Bentworth coach Donna Sally, who came in this year. The one person that really stands out for me in this league, or in this team, there's kind of two. Nicole Pulaski from Sarah Catholic, who we obviously are very familiar with, but the one that really stands out for me is Jocelyn Dawson from EF. She got a lot of playing time for Coach Crystal Gibbs at EF last year as a freshman, and she was very explosive at the tryouts when I was there, and she really stood out. And I think that's going to be a much-needed addition to the Cedarbrook team.
Yeah, absolutely. She provides height. She provides, like you said, that experience that maybe not a lot of the freshmen or soon-to-be sophomores have in this league at the high school level. So I think she's going to add to that. You mentioned Nicole Pulowski, a girl who could really shoot the three. She's joined by two Sarah Catholic teammates in Callie Cunningham, a junior, and Carolyn Melandra, a sophomore to be. So Dennis Stitch did a good job of adding to this team as well, and adding to what he did have. I mean, like Menneson Florist, he only has 4 players returning too, so he had to draft a lot of players. So it'll be interesting to see what his additions can add to it.
Okay, so what we're going to do now, real quick, we're going to pull out our crystal ball here. No reasons given. I'm going to give you a favorite and a surprise team, and you'll do the same.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Favorite for me, AMD Industries, without a doubt. Adding to what she added, but that's it, because I said no reasonings.
Right.
Surprise team might surprise you. I'm going to go Menneson Florist. Youth, speed, experience, and talent. I mean,
so we are giving reasons.
Yeah, we are.
We'll get.
I can change the rules. I'm the sports editor.
Yeah, it's true. Okay. It's true, and I completely agree with your changes here. So for my favorite, I'm going to have to go State Farm. I mean, this is a program, a team that has been so rich the last few years. Even like when they were in the Greb League, they were one of the best teams every year. I know that they lost both regular season meetings to AMD last year, but then they showed up in the championship game and went out and won a championship. So
and they have 9 returning players.
And they have 9 returning players. They have a lot of experience on that team. So I think that. I think them and AMD, are the top 2 teams. They're definitely the favorites to potentially go back to the championship game and fight for a title. But I'm going to give State Farm the edge in terms of being a favorite. My surprise team, I'm going to go with Lee Supply. Under new coach, you mentioned Caitlin Slagus. I think that, her experience of playing in the Greb League back in the day, her experience of playing at Bell Vernon, playing at Bucknell, playing overseas professionally. She got some experience last year as an assistant coach under Breer Rathway at AMD, so she's kind of used to it, I guess, in a sense.
Right.
And she just has a lot of talent here. I think that they're going to maybe surprise some teams, because we mentioned their guard play is really impressive. Obviously, having Jenna Dawson still there, adding Gracie Fairman, also adding Jasmine Fisher from Woodland Hills. I think that's a big addition too. So I think that they're going to be a surprise team this year as well.
I think a big thing too you mentioned Lee Supply and AMD. The coaches are in there mixing it up with them, especially at the meet and greet. Slagus was in there posting up people.
Yeah,
showing better positioning. Rathway was doing the same. Getting entry passes, putting up layups, teaching some post moves. It's big.
It's only going to make these girls better playing tougher competition, but also when your coaches are former All-Americans and former stars at the high school and college level, it's going to make you better as well.
All right, so that's a quick look at the girls division for Monday. Like I said, myself and you will also be there. On Tuesday, you will be there for the opening night of the boys edition. I will not. We have a softball tournament that we're also sponsoring, so I will be covering that. But let's look at the boys division. And I covered the draft, and I can't talk enough about how much talent there is in this league. The 6 teams, we got the B Graphics Elite Physical Therapy, Farmers, Howard Hanna, Campies, and Union Cleaners, just loaded with talent top to bottom. There's not going to be any blowouts this year, that's for sure.
I mean, even some of the kids that unfortunately weren't selected in the draft were really talented. I mean, this was just so loaded. I think that every coach had, this is a draft where coaches had really, really tough decisions to make. Not even just in the first round, but even in the later rounds as well.
Right. And I talked about how we'd like to do the marquee matchups at 8 o'clock. We have Farmers Insurance against, Campy's Pizza against Union Cleaners, which is the rematch of last year's championship game, which is something we do every first week. But, there's not really a less marquee game in this lineup of the schedule. I mean, B Graphics, we all know by now what they have, and they're in the 9 o'clock game, so it's going to be interesting. I mean, let's just start there. I mean, obviously, number 1 overall pick, Rodney Gallagher III from Laurel Highlands, WPIAL champion. I mean, his pedigree speaks for himself already, and he's only a sophomore. But me and Chad Corrado were just sitting here talking about Braden Reynolds falling to the second round for them from Chartiers Valley, all-section player from a program like that. He goes to the second round, and B Graphics almost immediately has the best backcourt in the league.
Yeah.
So that's who I'm really interested in seeing from B Graphics.
Yeah, and I think you look at their roster too. They have 4 freshman players,
Right.
Including Quentin Martin from Bell Vernon, who you've seen can play some good basketball. So and they have a kid from North Allegheny. They have Charlie, I believe Melib is how you pronounce his last name, from Elizabeth Forward, who a 6'3" forward who is only going to get better as well. So B Graphics is going to be a pretty good team, and obviously all eyes are going to be on them with the addition of Rodney Gallagher.
For sure. And then looking next, head coach Veda Epps from South Allegheny obviously has his son Bryce on his elite physical therapy team. There's a couple other people. Aiden Minetti, who, I know his dad Jason really well. He might not be the most talented player, but you can't teach 6'5". I mean, that's a big thing. They have a 6'5". Aiden Sloss from South Allegheny was one of Coach Epps's draft picks. He's 6'4", and then he has a freshman, Robert Kane from the Kiski School, kind of out of nowhere, but very talented, 6'2". I mean, they're going to throw a big lineup immediately onto the court, so that's going to be a challenge for most teams.
Right, and they have some good guard play as well. You mentioned Bryce Epps, going into his sophomore season at South Allegheny. He was our breakthrough player of the year this past season for what he did alongside, his brother Antonio Epps, who had another big season as well. So you got him. You got Makai Scott from West Mifflin, who still has a few years of eligibility left as well. And then even Isaiah Turner, a freshman from Elizabeth Forward. So a really good roster here. Coach Epps is only going to be missing 2 players after this year in Minetti and Sloss. So he has some talent that he'll have for the next couple of years.
Right. Looking next at Commissioner Dana Zacek's team, Farmers Insurance. I mean, you already have a player like Devin Whitlock coming back. We saw what he could do this year in his first year at Bell Vernon. Took them all the way to the state quarterfinals, where they lost a thriller 4 overtime game. But the one thing stands out immediately. You pair him with, now you have Omar Faulkner from South Allegheny. I mean, Whitlock was throwing alley-oops to Mitch Polott and Tommy Heppel at Bell Vernon, and now he gets Faulkner.
We might see a few.
There's going to be a few highlights coming for that for sure. But the big pick for me was Robert Robertson from McKeesport. I think being a senior, good size, 6'3", 185, I think that's really the missing piece that's really going to help Farmers Insurance get over the edge this year.
Yeah, I think when Dana Zacek was picking his team, he was thinking of this year. He was thinking of winning a championship this year. I mean, you add Omar Faulkner, 6'6" center to the mix, and you add Rob Robinson, who had a really good amount of success last year under Kevin Kovac. A big pick, too, to me, is Tayshawn Levy from Washington. I mean, we saw him a few times last year, when they played Charleroi, and I really like the way that he plays. I really like the way that he's going to kind of mix into this Farmers team.
Right. And we can't forget 6'4" Jordan Mayer, who, let's say former Ringgold forward. Looks like he's on his way to Thomas Jefferson, actually. But, I mean, you add him, again, another lineup that can go big, small, fast, play fast, whatever Dana wants to do, they're going to be able to do.
Yeah, and they have talent there that's been there that's going to add some depth to that. I mean, you got Matt Trunzo from California, Hunter Assad from Bentworth. You mentioned Jordan Mayer, Ben Shields from Charleroi, Nick Pecan from Ringgold. So they have some pieces there that are going to add to that team and add to what they can do.
For sure. And then one of our new coaches, Matt Loftus from Elizabeth Ford, he's taken over the Howard Hanna team. And I'm going to go on record right now and say this is probably going to be the best overall shooting team.
Yes, absolutely.
You got like Daniel Gordon, Zach Usher from Charleroi, but he adds Makai Valentine from Steel Valley. And, Makai Valentine's probably the player that stood out the most at the tryouts. Obviously, Gallagher wasn't there, but he was the one that was on most people's draft boards as going to be the first pick. The only thing that stood in his way from being up at the top, obviously, was Gallagher and then Faulkner standing at 6'6".
Yeah, I think that when it comes to teams that have brought the most back and have the most talent from last year's team, I think it's this Howard Hanna team. I mean, you talk about bringing back Zach Usher, has a number of years now under his belt, playing as an underclassman at Charleroi. Now going into his senior year, you got Easton McDaniel, who again another kid with a lot of experience. Daniel Gordon, we know he can shoot threes. We know how much experience he got this past year for Joe Salvino and Bell Vernon, and how much experience he's going to get this upcoming year as only a junior. And a kid who I think is going to be, I don't want to say a surprise, because I think a lot of people know how good he is already, because a lot of people have been talking about him, is Vernon Settles from Elizabeth Ford, this freshman. I know Naz was talking about him. He was impressed by him in tryouts, and a lot of other coaches have been impressed by him. Not a surprise to see that his soon-to-be high school coach, Matt Loftus, picked him up, but he's the one Elizabeth Ford player on Matt Loftus's team, so I'm sure he's pretty excited about that.
Right. And then, the other person you really have to look out for is Keandre DeShields. Going into his sophomore season, transferring from Uniontown, where he played with his brother last year. Now he's over at Laurel Highlands. He's a teammate with Rodney Gallagher. He could shoot lights out too.
Yeah.
So, definitely a team to watch. We're going to look at Campy's Pizza now, obviously a team we're well familiar with Naz Victoria as the head coach. There's no talk between us all the time. He's still dreaming about Noah Pierce shooting threes, but that's okay. He had a pretty decent draft. Travaris Rowe from McKeesport was his opening pick. Another great player. He's going to be a sophomore next year. He did a lot of conversing with Kevin Kovac, his coach at McKeesport. Slasher, can play. He shoot inside or out. He very high basketball IQ. Freshman point guard Eli Tesovich, who's going to head to Shady Side Academy. And then Alonzo Wade, another freshman from Bell Vernon. And then Cam Gurman, who we saw at Sarah Catholic, big body inside. He hustles. He's going to do some dirty work. If you team him up with him, Ethan Duncey, and another pick, Brandon Patterson from Wash High. 6'4", 6'5", 6'4". That's another lineup. But I know Naz wants to play fast, and he has a team that can do it.
Yeah, and I obviously like to give Naz a hard time about his team and Noah Pierce draining a three that I may or may not have predicted.
Right. Maybe.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Won't confirm nor deny that. But you look at, they have three guys returning, three key players in Will Wagner, Demetrius Butler, and Ethan Duncey, who are going to play significant minutes. They lost a lot from last year. Right. Starting out with their their league MVP in Chris Pecan. So they needed to add some talent here. They needed to add some height. I know that was a big thing that Naz wanted to do, and getting Travaris Rowe in that first round. Not only do you get a kid who has some height and got some experience as a freshman under Kevin Kovac, but you got a kid who's now eligible for the next 3 years in the draft. Brandon Patterson, I thought, was a really big pick from Wash High, another really good player that the Prexies have. We mentioned Tayshawn Levy earlier, but Nico Pugliano was a guy that Naz really talked about.
He did. He talked about him a lot. And I will go on record and say, of all the teams that had returning players, I think Naz has the three best returning players he had with, Charleroi, Will Wagner. In the Christmas tournament last year, he really burst out of his shell. 33 points against a Bell Vernon team that went far in the playoffs and played for a Whitfield championship. Demetrius Butler, he's going to step into a leadership role for Ringgold this year.
Right. Naz said he wants playoff Meach, because Meach was huge in the playoffs last year for Ringgold.
For sure. Let's look at Union Cleaners. By far, experience-wise, the most experienced team. Coach Kovac of McKeesport is taking over for the defending champions. Thing that stands out: 7 seniors on his team. He said after the draft he was going for it all in the first year because he had so much experience returning. Big things that stand out for me: obviously his son Colton Kovac, 6'5", can go inside out, and Aiden Teeter, 6'6", from Brownsville. And then Nate English, a player he was familiar with who played at Albert Gallatin, who re-entered the draft and he picked up. So he has some familiarity. He has some experience.
Yeah, I look at the guard play too. I mean, you bring back a kid like Luke Santo, who we've seen him since he was a freshman and how good he's been, and the role that he's played for Zach Kiefer over at Frazier. You add that to Nathan O'Savage, who's coming back as a guard. You have Aiden Kelly from Thomas Jefferson, Logan Wright from Bethel Park, and you got the spark plug in Chaz Merlack from Monessen, a guy that we just love his energy. We love what he brings to the court because he'll get in your head. He'll get in your head as an opponent.
He will, for sure. Without further ado, who do you see for real? No reasons this time. Okay. There's plenty of reasons throughout all these teams.
Okay.
Who's your favorite?
I got to go Farmers Insurance is my favorite. I think in terms of, you said no reasoning, right? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
that's
so
right.
I did it, right?
Jeez.
What?
Okay. Quickly.
Yeah, and then we'll go
surprise team.
Go B Graphics.
B Graphics.
Yeah.
Okay, so I agree with you on the favorite.
Okay.
Farmers Insurance is my favorite. No reasoning.
Oh, did I give reasoning? I did that, didn't I?
B Graphics, their quality, it's there. That's not a surprise team.
Yeah.
I mean, Reynolds, Gallagher.
I think in terms of just where they were last year. I'm just going to throw that out there. Sorry.
Shh. My surprise team is going to be Howard Hanna. Coach Loftus, he pays attention to detail. He has some kids he's familiar with. You got Kovac and Gordon from Bell Vernon. Obviously, he's seen them play.
Yeah.
He has Vernon Settles. I think that's the surprise team, and they're never going to be out of a game the way they could.
That sure sounds like some reasoning, Jeremy. A little bit. But I think, what we talked about with the girls' league too, how every team got better. It's the same here with the boys' league. I think every team is going to be competitive. There aren't going to be any days off for the boys. They're going to have to come out twice a week and try to give it everything they have.
Right. And yeah, first show in the books.
Yeah.
Let's give a couple special shout-outs. Our scorekeeper for the season, Rachel Robrack, formerly of State Farm, defending champion. She will be keeping scores for us this year.
Bell Vernon grad, Washington and Jefferson heading there next year.
Her brother Matt will be filming the boys' games, so that'll be good to have him on board to do that. Going to give a special shout-out to... I have to, since we're sponsoring it. The senior swing softball tournament kicks off Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Like I said in my column, it was a chance for us to get the softball players back on the field. The boys have the summer league. There's really nothing for the girls, so we felt like that's something we wanted to do. And I'm excited to get started on that.
And big kudos to you and to Tom Rodriguez and to Donnie Hartman, all the coaches for putting that together. It's a really good experience for the girls after losing what they lost this spring.
It's going to be fun, and the biggest thing too, like I said, is and for you as well. When I started this job, I came in. They were all freshmen. Now they're seniors. So I watched them grow up, and I want to get them to watch or have their senior days, and that's part of this. Shout out to Monessen Florist. They're going to donate some flowers for us. B Graphics is going to donate a trophy. Commissioner John Lorenzo helped us secure D. Virgilio for the championship under the lights, 8 o'clock on July 15th, pending any rain delays or, rainouts or something.
Everyone's been willing to help, and we're very thankful for that.
But other than that, we'll... You ready to go for the hoop season? It's about to get busy. After 3 months of not doing much, here we are. Another shout out to all the senior spotlights we had. They're going to be run down this week. I believe Wednesday will be the last one.
Yes.
But we've had almost running 2 a day, 3 months of that. That's almost 200 seniors that we were able to recognize. So thank you all for sending those in.
And a big congratulations to all our seniors as well.
For sure.
I know you weren't able to finish your spring seasons the way you guys wanted to, and we were very much looking forward to covering your journeys and covering what you were able to do this spring. But we wish you the best of luck.
For sure. And I'm going to celebrate one of mine, my cousin Anthony Kakari from Bell Vernon area, his graduation party today. And you know him. Lovable kid. Can't wait. Going to go, maybe have some beverages and
Yeah.
Some good food. Coach Frank cooking it up.
Bring me some.
No. Okay. Other than that, that's going to do it for episode 1 of Inside the League. We look forward to seeing everybody Monday, Tuesday, and every Monday through Thursday for the next 6 weeks. It's going to be a good time. We're really looking forward to it. Got anything?
Sayonara.
See you.